Hey friends, today I want to talk about what I have learned while working on my book about framing and tactics. And so, for the context for that, is that I've been experimenting in my book a lot and figuring out lots of different ways to arrange the information in a way that is meaningful and useful. And what I've found is that after I found an overarching structure that makes sense, each chapter I wanted to have multiple elements that make it useful. So the first thing I try to do is to have a story about the idea. So for an example chapter, it might be cultivate a sense of humor, right? Because cultivating a sense of humor is something that is helpful in the broader journey of introspection and trying to figure out what's going on with you. Because if you don't have a sense of humor, then you're gonna be stressed, anxious, upset, angry, right? And it's hard to be all of those things while you're also laughing. So you have to find a way to laugh. So there's a chapter about humor. There's like 20 something chapters. And so chapter about humor, how do we deliver a chapter on humor, right? And so the structure within each chapter that I've come to is, first I should have a story, right? That kind of, it's like in a way I'm like reverse engineering, the phrase like the moral of the story is like, yeah. So I have the conclusion first, and then I try to kind of reverse engineer the story. And after the story is told, about which the telling of the story should reveal the value of the directive, right? The directive is what you should do, in this case cultivate a sense of humor. And after you tell the story, after I tell the story, I want to give people a set. I then describe what people struggle with, right? So I think that's also very important. I think, and that I've learned that from like marketing, right? Like people don't really care what your solution is until you can explain to them what the problem is, right? They have to be like, oh yeah, I have that problem, okay, I guess I'll get that solution because it'll help me with that problem. People don't really care about random solutions, they care about solutions to their problems. So you have to describe their problems correctly so that they identify with it. So yeah, you tell the story, you describe the struggles, and then the next section after that is I give people suggestions on what they can do. And this is where the tactics versus framing thing comes into place. Because I was finding that with every directive that I have, so cultivate a sense of humor, learn to be more accepting of your mistakes, journal, experiment with framing. That's quite meta because that's anyway. What else do I have? Kind of face your fears, investigate your desires, many things like that, and so then there's a list of tactics you can give people, right? Another couple of strong chapters are confront your coping mechanisms. Another one is understand exhaustion funnels, when you get tired and you get more and more tired, and then you so on. And the thing is, I can give you a bunch of tactics for what you can do to try and alleviate these problems, but if you don't have an understanding of why you want to be doing those tactics, then it's just a bunch of additional work, right? And it's very easy to. I mean, I came up with a bunch of tactics for almost every chapter, but I wasn't satisfied. I was kind of, it feels kind of trivial. It feels kind of small. It will be helpful, but there was something missing, right? Like there's all these little bits of advice that just work, but like make lists of whatever's on your mind, talk to your friends, drink water, do breath work, learn to breathe. There's all these things that you can do that are useful, but if you don't have an overarching narrative or frame in which all of this makes sense, then it doesn't really help. And when this really clicked for me, so when I was doing my chapter on coping mechanisms, I reread Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking. So it's a book about how to quit smoking. And it's a very, very good book. It's very effective at what it does. And I could probably make a whole separate video just kind of geeking out about that book because it's so well done. And one of the coolest things that the book does is that they tell you right from the start, you don't have to quit smoking yet. Like, don't feel pressured or guilty or whatever that you have to quit smoking. In fact, we recommend that you keep smoking. We insist that you keep smoking until you feel that you're ready to quit, until you feel until you no longer feel the desire to smoke, which is like a big promise to make to someone who is addicted to cigarettes, right? They say keep smoking until you no longer feel the desire to smoke. We insist. And when you're done reading the book and you've read it properly, and at the end of the book, they're like, if you still feel the desire to smoke, you haven't been reading properly. Read it again. But like, they are so confident because they know that their system works because they've tried and tested it with lots of people. And where am I going with this? It was just witnessing how a book is effective at helping people stop smoking made me revisit how I'm trying to teach anybody anything, right? Because trying to teach someone to stop smoking is a very difficult challenge, because they are very much invested in their smoking habit, right? You're trying to change. You're not just trying to introduce something that didn't exist. You're trying to kind of dislodge something that's very deeply lodged. And if you can do that, you can do anything, right? Does that make sense? So there are a bunch of so the book does have a whole bunch of tactics. They do suggest that, when you think this, do that. When you think this, do that. When you have this experience, do that. And yeah, those are all helpful. But what the book really, really does that's very effective is that it gets you to reconceptualize your entire relationship with cigarettes. And I think that's the magic sauce. That's the aha moment. That's the boom, bada bing, bada boom. That's what it's about. Because once you reconceptualize your relationship with the thing, then every action that you take has a lightness to it. And so I do still smoke cigarettes. The last time I read this book, I went like 6 months without smoking, which is great, and I'll probably do it again after I'm done with this book. But my personal struggle that I struggle with the most is in the chapter about exhaustion funnels, which is that just you're tired, you feel like you haven't done enough work, you feel like you haven't made use of the day, you know you should probably rest, but you lie in bed, you can't sleep because you're screwing yourself up. And you can give people a bunch of tactics. You can be like, limit your screen, like after a certain time stop looking at screens, after this look at that, after don't eat before whatever, put blackout blinds in your room so that use white noise. Like all that it's tactical, it can help, but it doesn't address the root problem, which is your relationship with rest, your relationship with sleep, your the way you are conceptualizing that, your model of that is wrong. It's unhealthy. And so I'm now realizing, wow, the book that I'm trying to write, which is made up of like 30 chapters, I'm basically trying to help people reconceptualize a lot of things. And that's a very ambitious thing to be doing, but I think it can be done. And I think I have helped people do a lot of it kind of informally, semi-unintentionally, just by chatting, right? By being curious, like, what's your relationship with X, and why do you feel that way, and how do you see it, and can you see it differently, right? And so like with Easy Way to Quit Smoking, they're like, you still see cigarettes as a crutch, or you see it as you see giving up as an ordeal, as something that you have to struggle with. It's like a moral worth kind of thing. And the reframe that you have to do is that you are gonna give yourself the gift of freedom. You're no longer gonna want to punish yourself with cigarettes, right? Like, it's really that sort of frame. And when you change that frame, it's like going from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset, sort of. It's a whole different way of seeing the world and experiencing reality. And you're no longer playing defense, right? And yeah, I guess a lot of the things that I want to help people with and help myself with is to help them go from kind of playing defense and kind of being like feeling like you're under siege by whatever it is that you're struggling with, and then kind of reframing that relationship. And I think I'm really excited about that, because I think that when you reframe things in a way that lets you see a path to victory, right, or just a path to something wholesome and positive and exciting and interesting and compelling, then I think like the nitty-gritty details will almost take care of themselves. So I've already included all the tactics in the book, so I'm not going to remove them because I do think that they're still useful. But I'm just kind of reflecting on the fact that what I'm really trying to do is help people see things differently. Like that's the real core of the value. Hope that was helpful to you in some way. Done.